Whether you're a seasoned traveler or about to take your very first trip to Ireland, there are a ton of things I wish I knew before going. As someone who's traveled all over the world, these are my biggest tips on how to save money, how to not embarrass yourself, and how to plan ahead that will come in handy no matter where you're headed. To start things off, for the early birds, do not expect to order bellinis with brunch, at least not before breakfast. On our trip to Ireland, we went to this amazing rooftop restaurant in Dublin called Sophie's at the Dean Hotel, and even though I rarely drink, I was on vacation, and I made this mistake when trying to order a mimosa with breakfast. How embarrassing. Unless you're at a hotel restaurant where you happen to be a guest of the hotel, you might not be able to order alcohol in the morning. However, don't be afraid to try an amazing fresh juice or ask about their mocktails, which I'm happy to see becoming more and more common at bars and restaurants all through Europe. Speaking of restaurants, when you go to Ireland, don't miss out on trying the local food. For carb lovers, the bread in Ireland is fantastic. One of my favorite things was something I think most refer to as soda bread. It's thick, soft, and usually filled with grains, and the overall quality just tastes like heaven. There's also this phenomenal thing called boxty potatoes. It's basically a glorified hash brown, but softer, thicker, and just tastier all around. I believe it might even be called an Irish potato pancake, but whatever it is, it's simply divine. And trust me, my only regret is not ordering them with every meal. The next mistake to avoid is do not accidentally call the Republic of Ireland Southern Ireland, even when referring to it geographically. I made this mistake on my last video when I was simply trying to explain we were in the southern portion of Ireland, as in north, south, east, west, and didn't realize it was such a sensitive subject. I live in the US, and it's very common here to call where I'm from Southern California because we live in the southern part of the state. However, in Ireland, this is technically incorrect and can be extremely offensive given its long political history, so it's important to understand why. The idea of Southern Ireland, in quotes, was a short-lived political entity within the UK between 1920 and 1922. It was superseded by the Irish Free State, now known as the Republic of Ireland, and using the name Southern Ireland ignores the country's sovereignty and can imply a continued British presence. Today, Ireland is comprised of two different countries, Northern Ireland, which is part of the United Kingdom, and the independent and southern portion, which should be referred to as the Republic of Ireland. I promise, just remember that on your trip to Ireland. This one will save you from embarrassment and possibly offending some local residents. Speaking of the different parts of Ireland, there are actually two different currencies to be aware of. As I just mentioned, Northern Ireland is part of the UK, with the local currency being the pound sterling, you might recognize as this symbol. It's also referred to as Great British Pound with the currency code GBP. You may also hear it referred to as quid, which is slang and similar to a buck in US dollars. The currency in the Republic of Ireland is the euro, which you may recognize as this symbol, or the currency code EUR. The euro is also the most common currency you'll find in Europe, since it's the official currency of 20 out of the 27 EU countries. On that topic, you might want to take out foreign currency on your trip, because the ATMs will often have massive fees for converting your currency to local currency when drawing cash. But you can avoid these fees by going to your local bank before your trip and make sure to order it several days in advance. Don't wait till the last minute and expect to stop at your bank on the way to the airport and pick it up the same day. Ordering foreign currency can take up to a week to arrive, and although next day delivery is an option for a fee or a minimum purchase, why take the risk? We've ordered for every trip, and while it's never taken more than a few business days, better to be safe than sorry and allow plenty of time for it to arrive. When we were in Ireland, we were able to use our Visa 99% of the time, but there were some places where we needed cash only, and some only took coins. The amount of cash you'll need depends on your trip. However, I'd recommend taking out a little more than you think you need. Unforeseen circumstances can occur, and you don't want to find yourself short on cash if you end up in a sticky situation. By the way, if you have any foreign currency left over, when you bring it back to your bank to exchange, just keep in mind the exchange rate does change daily, so you won't necessarily get back the same amount that you took out. Since I briefly mentioned Uber, this is a good time to share another tip that you might not be aware of. So here's the next mistake you'll want to avoid. Although using companies like Uber are an extremely common form of transportation here in the US, they are not always available in Europe. In Ireland, when you use the Uber app, it connects you with a taxi driver since they don't currently allow rideshare, but we found this to be unreliable. After a few nights in Dublin, we planned to take a scenic trip through throughout the countryside and had a hard time getting a cab to pick us up from our hotel and take us to the rental car location. Luckily, we asked our hotel and they were able to order one for us, so be sure to leave yourself plenty of time if you need one. And if you're having trouble ordering a taxi in Ireland, don't be afraid to ask your hotel for help in getting one for you. Now, the next mistake to avoid is if you are planning to rent a car and take a scenic trip through Ireland, which by the way, I 1000% recommend you do, just be aware, depending on how you book your rental car, there might be a hefty temporary charge for insurance that you don't get back till you return the car, preferably in one piece. Ours was about $5,000 and took several days to get back, even after returning the car in perfect condition. So to try and avoid this, you may want to consider booking direct. Quick tip, the roads in Ireland countryside can be pretty tiny, at least compared to the roads we're used to in the US. So you might want to consider going with a compact vehicle, especially on those tight turns when huge buses are going by in the opposite direction to help you avoid some white knuckle moments. As for the next mistake to avoid, you probably already know this, but in Ireland, you drive on the left side of the road, which is also known as LHT or left-hand traffic. Now this means as a pedestrian, you want to walk on the right-hand side of the road facing oncoming traffic. And be extra careful around blind turns and always use a footpath if available. Make sure to look right first, then left for traffic when crossing the street, and in case you forget, there might be a reminder at your feet. Now, the next mistake to avoid is, if you are planning to visit Dublin, make sure you don't skip some of the best attractions like the Guinness storefront, Jameson distillery, and of course, Temple Bar. The Guinness storehouse is huge with plenty to see and do, unique experiences like getting a stouty with your photo on it that you can drink, and scenic views on their gravity rooftop bar. I don't drink that often, but I gotta say, in Ireland, the head just tastes better. Oh my gosh, the head of the beer, people. How many times do I have to say this? Don't make it lewd. Jameson Distillery has an interactive guided tour with a detailed history lesson on Jameson and plenty of samples on the journey. And don't forget to check out their mixed drinks as well. Now, you can't visit Dublin without stopping by the infamous Temple Bar, although some might consider it overhyped, overpriced, and overly crowded, depending on when you go. We really enjoyed it. There was live music, the drinks were fantastic, and it was quite a vibe. Definitely part of the experience and a must-do in my opinion. And if you go, you might see one of my stickers on Spotify. I happen to sneak on the wall if you want to check out some of my original music under the name Desh Please. Speaking of Temple Bar, the next mistake you'll want to avoid is not understanding the whole area is considered Temple Bar, which I didn't know at the time. All I did know is that I definitely saw a lot of places in the area having Temple Bar in the name. And while this may sound a little confusing, if you're looking for the one I think you're looking for, I got you. Just keep an eye out for the signature red corner building that looks like this. Trust me, you'll know it when you see it. By the way, if you're looking to blend in with the locals, instead of saying cheers, the common phrase in Ireland is sláinte, which means health, as in a toast to good health. So, the next mistake to avoid is, Dublin might be one of the most popular places to visit in Ireland, but do not spend all your time there and miss out on Ireland's gorgeous countryside. The rolling hills, the endless emerald greens, and breathtaking views are stunning and something you absolutely do not want to miss. Famous sites like the Cliffs of Moher or the Aran Islands and small towns like Galway and Doolin are among some of the most magical places you can experience when visiting Ireland. And whatever you do, don't forget to say hi to the Irish cows. I'm sorry. Irish bulls, excuse me. We spent several nights in Doolin right near the Cliffs of Moher, and it ended up being the highlight of our trip, which brings me to my next mistake to avoid, which has to do with what time of day to visit the Cliffs of Moher. While this wonder is beautiful, no matter what time of day, many believe the best time to visit the cliffs is at sunset. And don't forget, there are plenty of ways to visit, either by car and walking the grounds from the top, or by boat. And some nearby hotels even offer daily shuttles. Witnessing the cliffs in person is something we'll never forget. Easily one of the most beautiful views we've ever seen. And after being there myself, I now know how people can spend hours here admiring these natural wonders. By the way, another mistake to avoid here, if you are renting a car, there is a car park fee. And unfortunately, it is per person and not per vehicle. If you're planning to visit O'Brien's Tower or the Visitor Center, you must buy a ticket to access the exhibits and other activities. By the way, you can find the Cliffs website with hours and ticket info linked in the description below. And the next mistake to avoid is make sure you don't sleep on the castles in Ireland either. The ancient castles and abbeys were some of my favorite sites on our trip. They're rich with history, incredibly impressive architecture, and an absolute marvel to see up close. Each one is incredibly unique and they're everywhere, so be sure to add some stops along your route. Of course, if you're looking for recommendations, I've got a video linked below packed with some of the best castles you'll ever find in Ireland. And the next mistake you'll want to avoid is, if you're finding these tips helpful, don't forget to like, share with a friend, and subscribe so you don't miss out on future videos. Another mistake to avoid is, no matter where you're traveling, make sure to leave some free time in your schedule for spontaneous adventures. Trust me, I'm a detailed planner that always has a packed itinerary, but I gotta say, always leave a little time for the unexpected. Possible changes in weather or delayed flights sometimes mean experiences have to get rescheduled, and don't underestimate the possibility of stumbling upon a hidden gem that wasn't on your list but you're dying to visit. You might even want to see your favorite spot more than once. We enjoyed our visit to the Cliffs so much, we decided to visit them again by boat and booked a scenic cruise that did not disappoint. The next mistake you won't want to make is visiting Ireland during peak season, because in my opinion, avoiding the crowds is 100% worth it. So, as far as the best time to visit Ireland, I'd recommend going in the shoulder season, between April and May for the spring months, or September through October for fall. The next mistake to avoid, and this tip might be a no-brainer for our seasoned travelers, but Irish weather is unpredictable, no matter what time of year. One minute it's sunny and the next rainy. Weather changes do happen, and sometimes unexpectedly. So for those visiting Ireland for your very first time, make sure you bring at least one jacket and some comfortable walking shoes, as you're likely going to be doing a lot of walking on your trip. And I highly recommend wearing layers and packing for all types of weather. Packing a mini lightweight travel umbrella that could easily fit in a small fanny pack was a lifesaver on many of our trips when we encountered some unexpected showers. By the way, you might not want to use the term fanny pack when visiting Ireland because it may have a completely different meaning in this part of the world. This is because the word fanny is a slang and often vulgar term for female genitalia and could be considered very rude, so do not make this mistake in Ireland. Another mistake to avoid is, don't underestimate how useful WhatsApp can be when traveling to Europe and other countries. Being a huge planner, while booking things for our trip, I had no idea how many websites used WhatsApp as a means of quick communication. I used it to text restaurants for their hours and drink menus and booking reservations, messaging our hotel and Airbnbs to ask about check-in time, parking and room codes, and even checking in with our tour guides to confirm the meeting location or asking for a map for clarification. It was great to be able to text our hotel concierge for things like extra towels during our stay, and you can even make calls and send photos and links as well. I was used to emailing places and not hearing back for days, if at all, and with WhatsApp, most businesses would respond within a couple hours or even a few minutes. This is not sponsored in any way, by the way. This is just one of the apps I found super helpful on our travels and pretty unexpectedly, so I recommend it to anyone when they're going on a trip. Most businesses will have WhatsApp listed on their website if they use it, but I found with some websites, even if WhatsApp wasn't listed, you can actually search for a number on WhatsApp, and if a business is associated with it, it'll come up, and you can easily text them from there. Which brings me to the next mistake we made on our first few trips, which was booking things like hotels and activities through deal sites, when I realized later that booking direct actually saved us quite a bit. Deal sites are great for browsing events and things to do, even places to stay, but most add on a ton of fees, and we found we got the best deal on hotels and guided tours when we booked with companies direct. And whether it's a hotel or an activity, make sure to check the company website for special deals when booking online. As for the next mistake to avoid, when it comes to electronics, hair tools, chargers, and the like, make sure you bring the right adapter. We found a great universal one on Amazon, perfect for international travel travel. You could easily flip a switch to adjust it depending on where you're headed. Once again, in the description of this video, I've put a link to our Amazon storefront where you can find all the items that we use every time we travel. Speaking of packing, for the next mistake to avoid, when it comes to your luggage and packing for a trip to Ireland or anywhere international for that matter, if you can, I highly recommend doing your best to fit everything into a carry-on. Now hold on, I know what you're thinking. 1, why would you do this to yourself? And 2, that sounds impossible. But I promise I'll get to the why, and trust me, it can be done, and I'll share some of my best tips on how to do so. We took a trip to Norway in January, and our luggage was somehow lost for almost 2 hours after we landed at the Oslo airport. And if our delayed luggage would have actually been lost, and we didn't have our snow boots or winter jackets with us, we would have been screwed in the freezing weather and harsh winds and forced to buy overpriced clothing from the airport or brave the snow and cold in a t-shirt. No thank you. While on our recent trip to Greece, on our way back, we decided to check our bags since we had a full day of flights ahead of us, and we thought it'd be easier than carrying around our luggage with us while we raced to different gates. Once again, our luggage got left on the previous flight and didn't make it home with us. We waited for over an hour for our luggage that, you guessed it, never arrived. Had this happened at the beginning of our trip, like the poor couple on our flight who was on their honeymoon, it would have been pretty devastating. So, the next mistake to avoid, and this part is super important. If you don't know, each traveler gets 1 carry-on and 1 personal item, like a backpack. In my personal item, I usually keep my purse, my plane accessories like my AirPods, my sleep mask, along with my laptop and electronics, while I use my carry-on as my suitcase. So, if you are planning to use a carry-on for your suitcase, make sure it's the international carry-on size and it's compliant with every airline you're traveling with, because some European airlines have smaller size limits, and you'll likely want to go with the smallest one so you don't have any issues between airlines, because they can get very strict when enforcing this. You want the one that fits in the box. We've successfully managed to use only a carry-on on our last few international trips, and trust me, it's an adjustment for sure. No one's debating that, but you do get used to it. And look, this is coming from a girl that used to pack 6 to 7 pairs of heels for 1 weekend in Vegas, okay? It can be done. So the next mistake to avoid is, when you're shopping for luggage, don't necessarily trust the tag with the measurements on it. Many brands will claim they're the carry-on size, when in actuality, they're not the international size. They're larger than that. It will not fit in the box, and you're gonna end up packing everything into a compact suitcase for nothing. Don't make that mistake. Don't do that to yourself. Do your own research and take the measurements yourself. You want to look for one like this that fits within the 21.5 by 14 by 9 dimensions, including the handle and wheels. And some even have a weight limit. To help with this, I'd recommend wearing your walking shoes, jacket, and heaviest items on the plane, especially if you're packing for the colder months. Bulky snowshoes or hiking boots and thick jackets can weigh a lot and take up a ton of room in your suitcase or carry-on. So do yourself a favor, wear these items on the plane to save you extra packing space. By the way, most flights tend to be freezing, so you'll likely need your jacket on those long flights anyway. And at the very least, you can fold it up and use it as a pillow, or tuck it under your seat, and hey, at least you'll have it with you and it won't be taking up space in your carry-on. I promise this is gonna be a game changer. I've linked the ones we use below. They're on Amazon. They come in a few different colors. They have the wheels that rotate in any direction. They're sturdy and they've worked super well for our last few trips. Plus, they are the smaller standard international size, so you're welcome. Having our luggage and all our items with us while eliminating the worry of lost or delayed luggage, I don't plan on checking bags again anytime soon. Which brings me to my next mistake to avoid. When you are packing, be sure to leave a little tiny extra space for souvenirs, because hello, souvenirs. Now, whether you're a frequent traveler or someone who only travels for special occasions like a destination wedding, a honeymoon, or an anniversary, this last tip is one of the most important things I recommend you do. Each day of your trip, at the end of the night, in your hotel room, on the plane, or wherever you are, record a short little video of yourself and whoever you're traveling with discussing all you did that day. And no, this isn't just something to show grandma or the grandkids. Whether you're a content creator or not, I promise this is something you'll enjoy looking back on years later, and a great way to capture the memories of your trip. It just takes a few minutes. You could talk about what you did, what went right, what went wrong, share funny things that happened, or something new you learned. No matter how much documenting you do, filming these are going to be some of the best ways to relive it all years later. Chris and I started doing this on our honeymoon, actually our wedding night, and we've done it on every trip since. It can be pretty sentimental to look back on, and I really think you'll be glad you did. As for the last mistake to avoid, do not forget to check out my video on our trip to Ireland, where I cover everything you need to know, along with our favorite spots you absolutely do not want to miss on your trip. You can find it linked in the description below with some other things I mentioned, like our favorite travel items. I hope you found these tips helpful, but now I want to know, what did I miss? Please leave a comment if you've got a great tip to share, and I'll be sure to include it in my next video. And be sure to like, subscribe for more, and share it with a friend. Thanks for watching. Happy travels, and I'll see you in the next one.
Bye, guys.